This is D-Lo Flow TV. I'm a vlogger slash entertainer, and you're watching Jammin' Music Man. Don't forget to subscribe.
What's up, guys? It's me, Jammin' Music Man, and welcome to my special new video. And in this video, with Halloween season upon us, I thought, why not show off some of the horror DVDs that I've picked up in the past few weeks. So I'm going to show you guys what horror DVDs I got. Should be a fun video. Hope you guys enjoy it. So enough of the chit chat. Let's get on with the video. What the hell am I doing with an axe? Alright, you guys, this first DVD I got in my horror DVD pickup. It's one of my all-time favorite werewolf films. The movie I'm talking about is An American Werewolf in London. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend checking it out. But basically, the plot of the film is these two American backpackers. They're like in some remote northern town in northern England, and they walk into this pub, and everybody in the pub is like really strange, and they don't talk a lot. So basically, they tell the American backpackers just to stay on the road, don't walk off the road. So as soon as the American backpackers leave the pub, they're walking on this road, and that's when they hear this like werewolf. Or they didn't know it was a werewolf at the time, but they hear this wolf, and one of them gets killed, and the other one survives, and then we later find out he got bit by a wolf, and he wakes up. He's like in some hospital in London, and he develops this relationship with this nurse, and he pretty much spends the rest of the film trying to remember what happened that night, and he also turns into a werewolf on a full moon. But it's a fun film. It was directed by John Landis, who directed Animal House and some other, classic movies. But the makeup effects in this movie at the time, they were like one of the state-of-the-art makeup effects you ever seen. This movie came out in 1981, but it stars David Naughton as the werewolf of the film. But David Naughton, he had a big hit back in like 1979 called Making It. It was like a big disco hit. And then he ended up later having his own TV show called Making It, and it was kind of like a Saturday Night Fever type of sitcom. But I don't think it lasted, but maybe like a couple of episodes. But when that show came to an end, that's when he got signed on to do this movie. And this movie right here is a horror classic, and I enjoyed it. And you get some special features. You also get Making an American Werewolf in London, a little short documentary that I enjoyed. But I highly recommend picking it up. I got this at Walmart for like $7.50, I believe it was. So hey, if you can find it at your local Walmart, I highly recommend picking it up. But that's An American Werewolf in London. Alright, you guys, this next film right here in my horror DVD pickup is one of my favorite horror films of the 1970s. And this film right here, it was executive produced by Roger Corman. And if you know Roger Corman, you know his style of movie making. But the film that I'm talking about is Piranha. The original Piranha from 1978. Basically, the plot of the film, it starts off with these missing teenage boy and girl. They end up going missing. So this like journalist lady, she hears about it, so she goes to this town to find out what's going on. That's when she runs into this like single father guy who spends majority of his time drunk. So the journalist lady and the town boozer, they end up finding out that there's this like government top secret facility in the town, and that's when they end up meeting this scientist guy, and basically he tells them that he was developing these piranha fish to help stop, or basically to help the Americans win the Vietnam War. I mean, it's very 70s, but that's when the Piranha. They end up getting into the town's river, and the town boozer guy, his daughter is away at summer camp, and that river flows into the summer camp where his daughter's out. So they spend the rest of the film trying to stop these killer piranha fish. But it's a fun film. It's kind of cheesy and it's kind of campy. But I also remember watching this film. The very first time I watched it was on TBS late at night. And I watched it and it always stuck in my memory. But basically it was Roger Corman's attempt to basically cash in on the success of Jaws. But it's a fun film. Like I said, some special features you get. You get some behind the scenes footage of the film. Basically get a short little documentary. And plus you get some TV spots and some trailers of the film from 1978. But this right here, it's a fun one. And I picked this up at FYE. And I picked it up for $3.95. I mean, not bad for $3.95. And it's one of my favorite 70s horror films, and it's one of my favorite Roger Corman films. But I highly recommend picking it up. That's Piranha. Alright, you guys, this next DVD, you guys saw me get it in one of my past unbanging videos. But the film that I'm talking about is The Buggins. You know, this film right here, it's one of those horror films you don't hear a lot of people talking about. I actually discovered this film by YouTube. I watched it on YouTube a couple of years ago, and you know, I enjoyed it, and I didn't purchase it until here recently. But basically the plot of the movie is, it's like these two guys, they're in this like mining town, and one of them has a girlfriend, and she's bringing a friend, and they're going to stay in like this log cabin house. And while they're, you know, doing their mining work, they're down in like this cave. Well, apparently when they're down in this cave, somehow the evil Buggin monsters, somehow they escape. But they don't call them the Buggins in the film. But anyway, the Buggins have escaped, and there's like this old guy who creeps up at certain moments in the film telling everybody that, you know, you've let them escape, you're in trouble now. And he shows up at certain moments in the film because apparently, you know, he was a miner years ago, and he watched some of his mining friends from way back when get killed by the Buggins. But basically, you know, they spend the rest of the movie trying to stop the Buggins, and I'm not going to give away the rest of the film, but it's a fun film, and it's a classic, and like I said, it's one of those horror films you don't hear a lot of people talking about. And I know it's on Blu-ray now, but I picked up the DVD for pretty cheap here online. But basically, if you buy the DVD, the special features you get auto commentary from the director and the screenwriter and the star of the movie, Rebecca Baldwin. It was directed by James L. Conway, and also you get like the theatrical trailer with the special features. But guys, it's a fun film, and like I said, not a whole lot of people talk about the Buggins. But guys, that's the Buggins, and I hope you guys will go check it out. Alright, you guys, this next DVD right here is a Mystery Science Theater 3000 releasing of a Roger Corman film, The Undead. And I love Mystery Science Theater 3000, and I recently heard they're coming back, and they're going to be on Netflix. But I always loved watching Mystery Science Theater. I remember watching them like on Saturday mornings back in the late 90s, early 2000s, somewhere around that time. But basically, the plot of this film is, let me see if I can get this right. Basically, this guy, he hypnotizes people, and he's discovered a way like he can hypnotize people, and somehow like go into their dreams. Basically, the plot is this secretary who works at his office, she volunteers herself to be hypnotized. She ends up going to sleep. Well, apparently she wakes up in like medieval times, and she ends up meeting this witch, and then, you know, Satan appears, and he wants her soul, and he's going to have her soul by a certain time. So then the hypnotist guy, he ends up going to sleep, and he ends up going back to medieval times to stop Satan from getting his secretary soul. That's the best way I can describe this film, but it's fun, and I mean, it's not scary at all. But if you love Mystery Science Theater 3000, I would highly recommend having this in your collection. But the plot of the film, you're just going to have to watch it for yourself. But guys, that's Mystery Science Theater 3000's The Undead. Alright, you guys, this next film I got right here is directed by one of my favorite horror film directors of the 2000s. The film that I'm talking about is Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses. And this film right here, it's a weird combination of humor and horror, which I love the weird combination of both. But basically, the plot of the film is, it's these two guys, they're writing this book of weird, strange tourist places to visit when you're traveling across America. And the two guys, they got their girlfriends along with them. And these two guys, they're played by Chris Hardwick and Rainn Wilson. And they end up discovering Captain Spaulding's place. Captain Spaulding, played by Sid Haig. And, you know, they interview him for their book, and he's kind of a wise ass. And Captain Spaulding tells them about the town legend of Dr. Satan. So, of course, Captain Spaulding gives them the directions for them to find this Dr. Satan character. And when they're trying to find this town legend, they find this hitchhiker girl. We later find out her name is Baby, played by Sherry Moon Zombie. And she ends up taking them to her house where they meet her crazy ass family. Her mom, played by Karen Black. Her weird brother Otis, and all of her other strange siblings, and they basically spend the rest of the film getting terrorized. And the ending of this movie, I love it. I'm not going to give it away for anybody out there who hasn't seen it, but the film that came out after House of a Thousand Corpses is The Devil Rejects. So I highly recommend picking this one up along with that film. But guys, I highly recommend checking out A House of a Thousand Corpses. Alright, you guys, this next horror film is actually a remake of one of my all-time favorite horror classics. The film that I'm talking about is Evil Dead. Oh yes, and you might be saying, Jammin' Music Man, you haven't even opened it and watched it. Well, I rented this when it came out back in 2013. I went to the video store and rented it, so I have seen it. And yes, kids, we did have video stores in 2013, but that's another story. Basically, the plot of this film is pretty much similar to the original. Basically, it's these group of friends. They're in this log cabin house in the woods. One of them's getting, spirits taking over their body, and basically, the role of Ash in this film is played by a female, and I enjoyed this remake. I know a lot of people at the time were saying, don't go watch it, it's not like the original, but I watched it and I enjoyed it. It wasn't that bad of a horror remake, and I gotta say, this remake and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake with Jessica Biel are two of my favorite horror film remakes. But this film right here, I enjoyed it, and I picked it up for $4 at Dollar General. That's right, Dollar General has DVDs for $4. But guys, I enjoyed it, and if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend picking it up. That's The Evil Dead 2013 remake. Alright, you guys, this next DVD right here, it's another remake of another classic horror film. It's the 1990 remake of Night of the Living Dead. And for me, I love the original Night of the Living Dead. It's one of my all-time favorites. But this remake right here, it's a pretty good remake. It's got Tony Todd, Candyman himself, in this film. And this was actually a couple of years before Candyman. But basically the plot of the film is pretty much just like the original. Barbara and her brother, they're going to visit, I can't remember if they're visiting their mother or their father's grave, but that's when they're at the grave site, and that's when, you know, they find these zombies, and Barbara escapes, and she finds this like house, and there's people living in there, and You know, that's when they discovered that like zombies are like everywhere across the country. Nobody knows what the hell's going on. But it's a fun film. There's a few twists and turns in this film that's kind of different from the original. But nonetheless, it's one of my favorite horror film remakes. And if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend checking it out. That's the 1990 remake of Night of the Living Dead. Alright, you guys, this next DVD right here, it's also another remake of a horror classic. And I gotta say, I enjoy the remake over the original, but the film that I'm talking about is The Fly, starring Jeff Goldblum. I prefer this version better. The 1950s Fly, it was kind of corny and kind of campy, but this is the one I recommend you guys checking out. But basically the plot of the film is Jeff Goldblum, he's like this scientist guy, and he's discovered how to do teleportation with these like, pod things that he's built. So one night he's at this like swanky party where he meets Gina Davis, and she's like a journalist. He brings her back to his apartment. They got a relationship going on after that. And basically, Gina Davis, she wants to write like a story on Jeff Goldblum and his discovery of teleportation. So, one night at the apartment, he wants to show off how he does his teleportation thing. And when he steps in one of these pods, there's a fly in there. And he teleports into another pod, and little does he know that there was a fly in there. And throughout the whole film, his body slowly starts changing, and he becomes basically, this human, gruesome looking fly. And Gina Davis, at one point in the film, she thinks she's pregnant. She thinks she's going to have like a little baby fly. But it's a fun film, and I gotta say, it's a mix of horror and science fiction, but I love this film, and I highly recommend checking it out if you haven't seen it. That's The Fly. Alright, you guys, this next DVD right here, it's everyone's favorite killer doll. I'm talking about Child's Play 2, baby. Oh yes, who doesn't love Chucky? And of course, I love the original Child's Play, and I love the second one. The third one was okay, and Bride of Chucky I love. But basically, the plot of Child's Play 2 is Andy, the boy from the original film. In the second film, he's staying at an adoption home, and he ends up getting adopted by this like strange, strict family. And when he arrives at the house, he discovers they have a good guy doll, and the good guy doll, of course, happens to be Chucky. But Chucky, he slowly kills people in the film. He ends up killing Andy's adopted parents. He ends up killing Andy's teacher at school, played by Beth Grant, who I met a couple of years ago. But there's also, when Andy arrives at his new parents' home, he ends up discovering that there's a girl living there. I can't remember the name of the actress, but I also remember her playing Jason Priestley's girlfriend on Beverly Hills 90210. I can't remember her name, but she's in the film. But of course, Chucky's out to kill Andy. He wants Andy's soul so he can get out of this damn doll's body. But it's a fun film, and I love the Child's Play franchises. And of course, back in the 90s, I used to love the Child's Play films. But if you haven't seen Child's Play 2, I got this at Walmart for $5. And the American Werewolf in London, I also got it at Walmart. And they got these like glow-in-the-dark art slipcases that for anybody who wants to pick them up, hey, go to your local Walmart. But guys, that's Child's Play 2. If you haven't seen it, you gotta go get it. Cause why? Chucky's back. Alright, you guys, this next DVD right here is one of my favorite underrated horror films. The DVD I'm talking about is Pumpkinhead. And if you haven't seen Pumpkinhead, you gotta check it out. But basically, the plot of the film is it's this single dad and his son. They live in like this small country town, and they run this little small grocery store. They have a nice, quiet life until one day these group of rowdy 20-somethings stop by the store, And while they're at the store, like this family country bumpkin bunch shows up at the store and they need help from the dad. So the dad asks the 20-somethings, hey, can you watch my kid till I get back? And of course they say yes. So he goes and helps like this country bumpkin family. And the 20-somethings, one of them in the bunch, he's kind of a jerk. He's kind of a, show-off, arrogant prick. He's riding his dirt bike and he's showing off in front of his girlfriend, and that's when he strikes the little boy with his dirt bike, and it ends up killing him. He flees the scene. So the rest of the group, they're like, hey, we're going to wait till the dad comes back to explain what happened. Well, the dad comes back and he finds out that his boy's dead, and he kinds of gives the 20-somethings like an evil look, like, you're going to pay, you just killed my son. So they end up leaving, and they're like staying like this log cabin just for the weekend. And so the old man, he ends up going back to the family country bumpkin bunch, and he asks, I need your help, my boy's dead, I need you to help me to find like this old witch lady that lives in the woods. So the boy that's a part of the country bumpkin bunch, he tells him, hey, I'll help you find that lady. So he ends up finding this old witch lady who lives in the woods in like this abandoned like log cabin house, and he asks her, hey, my boy's dead, I need your help to resurrect Pumpkinhead to kill these people who killed my boy, and I want my boy back. So she does, and she summons Pumpkinhead, and I'm not going to give anything else away for the people out there who haven't seen that film, but it's a definite classic. The guy that plays the role of the dad in this film, I remember back in the 90s watching him on a show called Millennium, and it was kind of a X-Files type of show. Basically, all these like weird things were happening right before the strike of the new millennium. But it was a fun show, but I definitely remember watching him on that, and this film right here, it's a definite classic, and you gotta check it out. That's Pumpkinhead. Alright, you guys, this next film right here, I'm going to give you guys just a little hint. Let's see if you can guess what film I got in my hands. These bitches are a bunch of witches. Think you know what film it is? Well, if you said The Craft, then you are correct. Oh, some 90s goodness right here. If you haven't seen The Craft, man, you got to go check it out. Basically, the plot of the film is it's about this girl, Sarah. She moves somewhere in LA, and she starts going to like this prep school, and she's the new kid in school, but nobody knows she has like witch powers until she starts hanging around with the social outcasts girls at her school, and then come to find out they're into witchcraft and they got witch powers too. And then they like summon the power of, I can't remember, Manu, something like that, the film. And then they get witch powers, and pretty soon they start putting curses on boys at school. And then one of them puts one curse on Christine Taylor. She's in the film. Christine Taylor, Ben Stiller's wife, lucky guy. But anyway, they put a curse on her, and her hair falls out. And one of them gets $175,000 because they made her mom's boyfriend die. And Neve Campbell, she's in the film, and she's got like these burn marks on her back. She makes all of her burn marks go away, and then all of a sudden she's like, the hot chick at school. And early in the film, when you meet Neve Campbell's character in the film, she's kind of a dark, kind of gothic chick. She almost reminds me of Ali Sheedy's character in The Breakfast Club. But it's a fun film. I want to say this is probably one of Neve Campbell's first movie films, because at the time she was on Party of Five, and Party of Five was, it was a hit show back in the, mid-90s around this time. And this is the film right before she done Scream. And Also in the film, you get Skeet Ulrich in the film, who would later go on to be in the first Scream with Neve Campbell. He's like, he's kind of like the popular cute boy at high school, and all the girls got a crush on him. But Robin Tooney's character, who plays Sarah, she ends up putting like a spell on Skeet Ulrich's character, and he's just obsessed with Robin Tooney's character. But this film right here, it's a lot of fun, and it was cool. I checked out the special features with this DVD, and I watched like a short little documentary or making of featurette called Conjuring the Craft, and I actually learned that Fairuza Balk, which is like the lead girl of the clique, or the lead villain in the film, I actually learned that she actually studied like the witch religion, because basically in the short little making of documentary, you find out that, I can't remember the name of the witch religion, but basically it's it's a religion that has to do with planet Earth, with the trees, the waters, and fire and all that. And it's an actual real religion, but you learn that basically the movie industry capitalized on the religion and basically made their religion just seem real evil. But it's it's an actual religion. I can't remember what it's called, but anyway, I learned that from watching the making of featurette. But guys, if you haven't seen The Craft, you should definitely go check it out. One of my favorite films of the 90s. And if you haven't seen it, go check it out. That's The Craft. Alright, you guys, this next DVD right here is one of my favorite 70s horror films. One of my favorite underrated horror films. In the film I'm talking about, you might remember I picked it up in an unbanging video a couple videos back now here on my channel. But the film I'm talking about is Tourist Trap. Tourist Trap stars Chuck Connors, who was on The Rifleman back in the 50s, early 60s. He stars as the strange Mr. Slauson. But basically the plot of the film is these group of 20-somethings, they're in this like small remote town, basically in the middle of nowhere, and one of them, he ended up going missing because he had a flat tire. So the rest of the friends are the three girls that are in these group of friends. They're like skinny dipping in this lake, and that's when strange Mr. Slauson, he appears and he kind of befriends the group, and he asks them, sure, you guys can stop by my house and make a phone call to help try to find your friend. And that's when, the group of people, they just find out Mr. Slauson is just this like weird, strange, creepy old guy, and he tells them about how his brother lives in a house in the back. And Mr. Slauson, he lives in like this house with like these weird animatronic figures of like cowboys and Indians, and basically it's a weird, strange horror flick for the time that it came out. Basically the weird brother that lives in the back, basically, to not spoil it for everybody, it was really Mr. Slauson who lived in the house. There's no evil brother. But I'm not going to spoil it for anybody. But Tourist Trap, if you haven't seen it, you got to go check it out. This was one of the first horror films that got criticized by a lot of critics for trying to capitalize on the success of Halloween. Halloween came out 78. This came out 79. But it's definitely a forgotten horror film that I think a lot of fans should go back and rewatch, because it's definitely a fun one to check out. But guys, that's Tourist Trap, and I hope you guys will go check it out. Alright, you guys, I saved the best for last. I'm wearing a t-shirt right now that stars this guy right here, Freddy Krueger. So the DVD that I must have, it can only be one film. Well, actually, it's a collection. So it must be A Nightmare on Elm Street, the Legacy Collection. That's right, you get the original 6 Elm Street films, you get Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and you get Freddy vs. Jason. I picked this up at my local Walmart. It was like 20 something bucks. Basically, the special features you get on here, you don't really get that great of special features. You get to choose between widescreen and full screen. And then, you get like little features where you can, read short little bios of the actors in the film. But basically, the Elm Street franchise, I kind of grew up watching these films every weekend, going to the video store and renting one of these and watching them and just having a good time. And for me, there's only one person that can be Freddy Krueger, and that's Robert Englund. And for me, Robert Englund will always be connected to Freddy Krueger, much like how Bela Lugosi will always be connected to Dracula, or Gunnar Hansen will always be connected to Leatherface. It's just, there's only one man who can be Freddy, and that's Robert Englund. And I love these films, and if you're a fan of them, you definitely got to have this set in your collection. But guys, I hope you enjoyed this little video. I hope some of you guys will go out and check out some of these films that I showed you. I want to wish everyone a happy Halloween. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up. Leave me a comment, subscribe to my channel. And once again, I'm Jammin' Music Man. I will see you guys next time. And watch out for Freddy. See you.